Hey, welcome everybody. We're excited to join you here today and got a special interview with Josh Grillo. Can't wait to introduce him to you and just have a chance to just dive into his business and his success and, maybe some of the challenges he's overcome. But we're super excited that you're with us here today. We're Jeff and David Bush from growmyprofit.com, where we help scale businesses 2 to 10x in the next 3 to 5 years. So if you're in a position where you are ready to scale your business and you'd like some extra hands on deck, you'd like some outside consulting, from some proven business entrepreneurs that have been able to grow sales teams, improve marketing, grow leadership, and scale businesses with structured business planning, processes, and procedures. We'd love to have a conversation with you. Check out growmyprofit.com for more information. But we're going to be diving into our 6-step process, and we're going to be talking to a real life successful entrepreneur who's taken these steps in his own fashion and been able to develop success. So Jeff, you want to give Josh a quick introduction?
Yeah, I mean, Josh and I have been friends and been in kind of a marketing mastermind for what, Josh, 6 or 7 years now.
Yeah.
And
Yep,
I've
you got
watched
it.
him kind of grow his company and grow it to the point where he was able to take a bunch of time off and kind of run it remotely. So he's built a great business that's not like he's not having to work 60, 80 hours a week in it, but it's still growing in revenue, great team, and kind of a leader in his field. And I've always appreciated being in meetings with Josh and giving me some good feedback, whether it's SEO. I mean, definitely pretty schooled on the digital side of the business for, search engine and Google and doing that for all of his clients, and has helped me a lot, giving me some great tips for, how to rank my business better and climb the Google search engine, and some great tips through the years. So yeah, a good friend and fellow businessman, and a marketing mastermind group together, and watched each other grow businesses over the last 6 or 7 years. So yeah, welcome to the show, Josh. Thanks for being on, man. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it, guys. Yeah, happy to have you. Happy to be here, and hopefully I can give you some of my insights, some of my failures, successes, all that good stuff. I'll just jump in real quick. So I been in business now for about 20 years. I've had two companies, one in television as my first intro into, I guess you could say, marketing. Had an advertising agency in television nationwide for a number of years. Had some really big hits with that. Branched off more into the online marketing space with our current company, which is basically we own my partner and I own a multi-family marketing agency, and we specialize in brand development, visualization, websites, digital marketing for multifamily management companies, owners, developers across the U.S.
Fantastic. So when you talk about your business, your primary target audience is owners of lots of units. So it's not
Yeah,
just
that's correct. Yeah,
and
you got it. The Gray Stars of the world. So clients like Gray Star, Titan, Beztech, some of the big ones out there we go for. But again, it's you know it's people that own apartment buildings, property management companies as well, guys that are developing buildings, and from coast to coast. We're across the country, and we've we were all centrally located here in San Diego. I'm based out of San Diego. Since COVID, like everybody else, we shut down our office. We went the remote route, and that's kind of how we've gone ever since. So our team members, a lot of them are on the East Coast. Some are out in the Midwest, and obviously some are here still in San Diego. So
nice. Well, we have this 6-step process that we go through with business owners to help them to move through kind of a formula to help them to scale their business 2 to 10x in 3 to 5 years. And I want to just throw out some questions to you. When you look at your business and you assess your business's current capacity to scale, would you say that your business model, the way it is today, has huge potential to scale quickly? And was it the same way when you first started 15 years ago, or were there some major things that you had to put into place to make it more scalable?
yeah. To start, I would say to scale, yes, but only to a certain extent, right? So our business is a very service oriented business, so that requires a lot of people, right? So Obviously with scaling and trying to predict future growth and how many people can handle how much volume of business, that's always a challenge, right? Because every time you add another team member, right, it takes away from something else, right? It could dip into your profits, it can dip into a lot of different things. So these are all things that we internally are always thinking about and figuring out. But when I was getting going in this, that wasn't even in my mind frame, right? I think when I was getting going, it's all about how scrappy could you get, right? How scrappy could we get? It's all about how much can you sell? How do you deliver the product? Who can deliver the product? A lot of cases, Jeff started with saying, I've had a lot of freedoms in the business, which I have, but the reality of that is when I was getting this business going, it was me and me only and my business partner doing everything, learning every single job that had to be done in this company. We were the ones doing it, right? Before we hired our first person and then said, okay, now we can start delegating this out to this person. And I'll never forget, we were sitting around in here in San Diego, and we're literally having a little meeting. I said, man, wouldn't it be nice one day if we could just had a whole team of people that did all this work for us? I mean, that would be the nicest thing. And again, it was just me and him at the time, right? But it's like, wouldn't that be nice? And, this here we are, 14, 15 years later, same company, right? And yeah, we have that team now, right? We built it. We've had that team for some time now. But to get to that point, oh my God, I mean, it was like looking back, just all the pitfalls, all the failures, everything that goes through that, all the lessons learned are just insanity. Like probably my biggest thing, and I don't know why it took me so long to learn this, is that you are literally a byproduct of your team, right? If you've got a crappy team, it's going to be over for you, right? Like for us, it's like I have got to constantly hire good people. The better person I hire, the faster I'm going to accelerate growth. And it's just taken me forever to get to that point. It really has. But after you hit a certain plateau and you realize, wow, I'm growing so much because I have a fantastic person in this role, a fantastic person here, and a fantastic person here, and they're helping accelerate me. Once you learn that, or once I got that in my head, I was like, it's like the light bulb went off. I got it, right? So when it comes to growth now, and to go back to your question, when it comes to growth now and scalability, that's what I think about. It's like, what type of person do I need in that seat to help move me from here to here? And that's really it. So
Yeah.
Josh, do you remember when you started hiring team members? Like, did you get your first $1 million in revenue with just you and your partner doing it so you could try to drop 100, 200 grand to the bottom line and not have a bunch of employees? Or where did you start building the team and hiring people? Like what revenue level? And
I think we were at a point, it was probably after, I think about maybe a year and a half of being in business, where we had a large client. And Jeff, as the loneliest number in business is one. You never want to have one of anything, right? So we had one, right? It's like you have that whale client, and fantastic when you have them. When they leave, it's horrible, right? It sucks, right? It's like everybody's pinning against you. It's just horrible, right? So when you have that one big client, or like we had the one big client, we realized that, okay, to even get to the next level, we're so neck deep in that business for that one client, we've got to bring on one team member, right? Which is what we did. It's like one team member we brought on, and then another team member we brought on to take over some of that work while we were involved, but at least able to step back just a little bit to just understand what's going on. And then that just evolved. I mean, that literally evolved and evolved. So it's like one person, two person. As far as revenue amount, I'm not quite sure where that was at. Might have been right around $500,000 or so. I'm just can't quite remember, but I mean, it was probably within the first 24 months of being in business for sure. So
When you look at your business plan, did you start off with a structured business plan? Have you evolved to a more structured plan. Jeff, really praises the idea of having a financial scorecard that he uses to scale his businesses. But, what kind of business planning did you do, and what are you doing now to help your business to continue to grow?
Yeah. Well, when we started, it was like not even really a business plan. It was just like, hey, we have this idea. We have this big number, right? So I used to, and Jeff, you're familiar with Jordan Belfort, right? The Wolf of Wall Street guy. So, I had bought like his mentorship program, which to this day, I think was like one of the best purchases I ever made. I think it was like at a Frank Kernever or something like that Jordan Buffett was speaking at. And this is way before he was in the Wolf of Wall Street movie, right? Or had the Wolf of Wall Street movie come out. But the program was you would be on a call with him every single week for 52 weeks. And then you would do a 3-day intensive with him in Los Angeles, right? And what was unique about it is literally you're on the phone call with him, right? You can ask him anything you want. You're on the call with him every single week. It was such a small group because nobody knew who he was, right? They just didn't know this guy. So I think at that time there was like 12 of us. And I remember going to a 3-day intensive in LA with them. And I remember leaving, like, how it is when you leave a really big conference, you're like on top of the world, right? And I was leaving, felt like I was on top of the world. And I immediately came home and kind of like wrote out the bullet points of what could be this company, right? That we were getting going at the time, right? And I remember we had some massive, massive numbers, which we have yet to even hit, but they were there, right? They're like the North Star, if you would, right? The guidepost, right? And enough to get us all excited, at least me and my business partner are excited enough. We're like, okay, let's go for it, right? Which we did. But evolution of everything, right? So yeah, we had some initial core numbers, but I think after about probably it was about our 4th year in business, we gravitated towards like the EOS system, like the entrepreneurial operating system, the Gino Wickman. He wrote all the books. So we did his system for a while, right? Which is, you had your 1, 3, and I think it was like a 10-year business plan. Then you had your quarterly goals, your rocks, and all that stuff that was involved in that. So we really, really were following his stuff to a T. Now, good or bad, I don't know. We weren't using one of their implementers. We were implemented ourselves, and I was basically the implementer of it. But that's how we structured everything. So our org chart was structured like that, with the visionary, the integrator, and then how we broke everything out. And we ran it that way for quite some time. We ran it that way, and we had some success with it. But there's some issues with that system. I thought that that system for the size where we were, that model didn't quite fit, and I kind of learned that over time. So what we ended up doing is kind of retooling it, taking bits and pieces, the quarterly rocks and the 1-year business planning, and we stuck with some of those things, and the other stuff we just threw to the side. Now that was for a number of years, but as of like fast forward to today, yeah. So we've got a 3-year business plan written out. We have a full financial dashboard that we developed ourselves, and basically our CFO pretty much owns that thing. So that's all our metrics. So we can look back any year we want, and it's basically right up to date, right? So it breaks down everything. So we know every single metric in our business. We know every single number in our business, how we did year over year, month over month, product over product, right? All our different buckets, all our cancellation rates. It's all there, and it's all factored into that financial dashboard. I gotta say, if we didn't have that thing, we'd be absolutely screwed. We just wouldn't know. We just wouldn't know our numbers. And I think for us and our business, where we have a lot of different products we offer. We have a lot of clients. You get cancellations for this or that. And just to make sense of it all and say, hey, are we going up or are we going down? You got to have that dashboard in place. And for us, it really tells the tale of where we are at as a company at any given time. So
It's just out of curiosity, because you have a partner in your business, did you kind of split the roles? Was one more visionary and one more of the integrator? Were you like the integrator and he was more visionary, or were both of you doing it? Because usually if there's a partnership, I've heard it kind of helps to have one's pretty strong on the vision side, but then you got to have somebody strong to integrate and make it all happen. But in your case with a partner, is it both of you doing both or one more?
Yeah. Yeah, that stuff is difficult. I was a visionary. He was the integrator. I'm kind of like the more creative type. He's more he's very process driven. So I kind of, as I say, I live in the gray and he lives in the black and white, right? So he's nuts and bolts, finances. That's him. Me, I'm more sales, marketing, design, creative. That is really my forte. And I think that's why our relationship works really, really well as a partnership, and why we've been we've been pretty successful for a long period of time with this company. And I think that's it, right? Because I think if I was handling all the process, I just wouldn't have the quite the attention to detail that he does. He has that brain for that. But I am on the flip side, I have that brain for marketing, promotion, advertising, sales, motivation. So that's kind of how we rolled with that. So it's essentially I was the visionary at the time. He was the integrator at the time. It worked. It didn't work, right? You kind of figure those things out as you go on, what's right and what's not.
Very cool. Well, when we talk about the steps, logically, marketing is a major step, and because you are an agency, that's a strong suit of yours.
Yeah.
But if you were to summarize like the three most successful marketing actions that you have done or that you do today, like if you're out there talking to an entrepreneur and they want to scale, they want to grow, what would you say? Hey, if you don't do these three things right here, you're crazy because you're not leveraging the full power of what's available to you.
Yeah, good question. I would say, yeah, I got some good stuff. So I think first and foremost, like you've got to be in a specific vertical or a specific niche. Like you have to be, right? We're a multifamily. That's what we do, right? We are we're nowhere outside of that at all. This is our vertical. We choose to own it. We want to be the experts in it, right? So most businesses these days, they're in a specific vertical. Um, for me, the number one thing, if I was to go back, if I was to go into any new or start any new company in any new vertical or niche, I would start with the book, right? So that's what I did. I started with the book. Jeff knows we've been in masterminds together, and there was a period where everybody was writing books, right? It's like, get your book out, get your book out. And I'll never forget, I was the most hesitant one. I never wanted to. It's not something I just really wanted to do. And of all people, this mortgage broker guy comes in who I never ever thought would write a book. I was like, what the hell is he going to write a book about? Guy slaps his book down on the table. Jeff, I don't know if you know that guy, Doug Brennicky. Nice guy, super nice guy. But he slaps his book down on the table. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. He wrote the freaking book. He literally wrote the book. I couldn't believe it, right? I was like, that's it. It's done. That's like the number one thing that motivated me. But anyway, wrote the book for my space, right? And then I figured out, it's like, how do I own it, right? Like, so I called it like definitive guide is what I called it to like apartment marketing, right? So wrote the book, and it was easier than I thought. It was kind of like taking your top 10 top 10 frequently asked questions and writing the answers to them, right? So wrote the book, did it all, and me being a marketing guy, right? I knew a lot of the mechanics that happen with Amazon and stuff like that. So we promoted the hell out of the book. We did all these little freebies and stuff like that, got it on the bestseller list and all that stuff. But here's what happened. So had the book. We were a company with small pockets, right? Most of the other companies in the space were big companies, deep pockets. Every single trade show they were at, spending bukus of money, sales teams, you name it. Me, I didn't have any of that, right? What I had was a book, right? So I was like, all right, I'm the expert. I got the book. So picked a couple trade shows, brought 300-400 books at trade show, and I made sure that book had the cover on this thing was like the very first edition. I mean, it was scrappy looking, but it was bright orange and yellow. And I looked at my bookshelf because I have a lot of business books, and I remember the one that stood out to me was like Seth Godin's Linchpin book. It was like orange and yellow, right? It was like the one that jumped out. I was like, we're going to do the cover just like that. And that's what we did. So when you go to one of these trade shows that we were at, we would fucking stack up, excuse my French, we'd stack up, 300 books, right? They'd be stacked and we put them all up and people would be, I remember people walk by, they'd come across the trade show room and I'd be like, what is that? I'm like, well, it's my book. They're like, you're giving away a book? They're like, oh my God, this is the best thing here that's given away. Will you sign it? I'm like, sure. Well, what do you want me to sign? I'm just signing these books, right? Got all into it. And I was like, I can't remember. I think it was Jeff Henry that told me, he's like, oh, you got to go get those little gold seals signed by the author, right? So then I got this big old reel of gold seals. So I was like sticking these on every book, signing them, right? Like I was some big author or something. It was so funny. But anyway, the book was great. The book had a lot of value in it. I wrote it so it was pretty evergreen. So, no matter how many years go by, there's some good stuff still in it. And that was our model. I mean, that was literally our model. We would go from trade show to trade show. We wouldn't do a lot. We'd do like 3 or 4 a year. And we just give out hundreds of copies of this book to anybody that walked by. Take our book, take our book, take our book. And here's what happened out of it, David and Jeff. Owners of big groups, they would get the book. They go fly home from the event and they pull it out and they read like the first chapter and that would be it, right? Or the second chapter and that would be it. And then they would come back and they would send me an email, call, say, hey, got your book, read the first chapter. Let's have a conversation, right? I got something possibly for you. So it was almost this implied expertness, right? Like, hi, he's got the book. He's the expert. And we started getting lots of deals off the back of that book. So did that, right? And then years later, updated the book again, right? Again, the book's still pretty outdated now, but we did an updated version, newer cover and all that. And still to this day, people go on Amazon, they download the book, they buy the book. They say, I got Josh's book here. I like a lot of the stuff he's talking about. Let's have conversations. So as far as marketing big three, to me, if you want to absolutely own your vertical, you publish the book in the space, make it as good as you can, go in, interview expert people, whatever, make it as good as you can and make it your number one lead magnet. Like that was it. That was our lead magnet that got us so many deals that then deals after deals after deals. That would be the first thing. The second thing I think is we were heavily, and Jeff mentioned this earlier, we were heavily invested in SEO because that was my background, right? I was always really good at getting websites to rank, whatever, number 1, 2, or 3 on Google. I had a knack for it. So part of that was my whole premise was just deliver great value and content. How can I deliver more value, right? Like I have this audience. How can I give insane value to these people? That's what I was all about, right? So the book, value. What else can I give? So back then we were like, blog posts, like we would write these humongous blog posts that are just value, 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 value. I had this really awesome girl that worked for me. She was almost like a very creative type, but we had started a podcast. This is back before podcasters were even started. So we had started one in the space and she was out interviewing people. She was writing as well. So we just kept blasting the industry with just tons of valuable content, right? So then what I did is I turned that into the newsletter, right? Which I was like, newsletter, who reads this stuff, right? Started doing that. And then every single week, it's been probably 4 years now, every single Wednesday for the industry, this newsletter goes out. And again, what that thing does, it's top of mind, keeps me top of mind with my existing clients, keeps us top of mind with prospects that we have. Lots of people like it. Lots of people read it. I don't sell anything in it. I just literally put out content. It's just like, here, content, more value. Here's what I think. Just go, go, go. And that's really, I think, how we've been able to really grow this business to where it's at today without having a massive sales team, without having, going out and spending bukus of money, going to endless trade shows and having this entire outbound model, which Jeff, I know you're a big proponent of that. I know that, but we are essentially all inbound, which is an absolute beautiful thing, and it does have its challenges, but being inbound is incredible. Knowing that, okay, my website ranks for all these different keywords for products that we offer and we're in the top spots. Fantastic. That's leads coming in. Newsletters going out. That's keeping people top of mind with what we offer. Fantastic. books out there, running paid ads on all the different channels as well. Fantastic, right? So that little universe that we've created, that environment that we've created, has been absolutely instrumental in being able to save capital, save money, and really have warm leads come to us, right? Nothing better than a warm lead, and that's what it's done for us. So those would be my top three: book, newsletter, and focus on delivering value content. If that's through blogs or however you want to do it, that's what I would do.
Solid. Jeff, you want to share something?
Josh, that was a great explanation of marketing. When you do really good marketing, it makes it a lot easier to sell. So you're onboarding a couple new clients every month. I mean, what, 20, 30 clients a year, and business is, doubling and tripling. So
Yeah.
that's gonna be how you grew revenue. As far as from a sales perspective, those leads that come in, do you have a sales team, or you have a couple salespeople that follow up and sell, or was that more you and your partner maybe selling the big accounts and then some salespeople? Did you ever, not a huge sales team, right? But like,
Yeah.
or a little sales team just to follow up on the leads that you're generating, or go work the trade show with you? What's the key to the sales team part of it?
Yeah, we did. So obviously we did it all ourselves at first. But as we grew, yeah, we've always had sales people, right? And not big sales teams, very small sales teams. But the way we do it be pretty interesting. So we basically trained, I want to say everybody in our company, but everybody that talks to clients, they're all essentially salespeople, right? Or they're all essentially internal consultants, external consultants, whatever you want to call them, right? They're all very educated on the different product set. They're all very educated on actually the customer, the industry. So yeah, we would always have our sales team would always answer all incoming leads, all incoming calls, all clients that we already have, from account managers to digital specialists. They're all versed on the products, right? So to me, it was always really important to try to minimize points of contact for clients. So, like, Jeff, you probably don't want to speak to four different people at my company. You probably want to speak to one person at my company, right? So that to me is like the ideal way if you can get it that way. But it's very, very difficult when you have somebody that comes in and buys three or four different products, and you have different teams representing these different products. So minimizing the points of contact to provide a better customer experience. So that's what we've done, right? It's really try to get everybody that actually talks to clients understanding all of our products, being able to cross sell our products as much as possible. But yeah, it all does start and stop with our sales team, and those are the ones that are, when the leads come in, they're the guys that are answering the phone. They're the ones that are doing all the, the proposals and everything like that, getting it together. And then once that deal happens or is sold, it goes into our ecosystem of account managers and digital specialists then that are then peppering them with the information they need, getting those projects completed, and then potentially looking at what opportunities that also may arise. If you're a big client, you're going to have more than just traffic you're going to need. You may need visualization. You may have a new development going on over here or something else going over there. So for us, it's just a matter of going down that checklist and say, Mr. Marketing Director, how many more things can I take off your list for you? How can I make Jeff's life easier, right? Really, you've got so many things going on. How can I make your life easier? Give it to us. We'll take care of you. I'll be your single point of contact, right? So
That's great. Do you have something else you wanted to add, Jeff?
Well, I know we covered, sales and marketing, 2 out of our 6 steps that are pretty crucial. I know leadership is one. So I don't know, Josh, how do you go out and find good leaders? And then are you trying to coach and train them into being better leaders? I mean, you've had some teams, and if you don't want to lead everybody, right, you got to go find some leaders. So tell me, how do you like find leaders, and then how do you enrich them and make them better leaders? I mean, have you spent some time on that side, building that side of the business, like your leadership team?
yeah, we have. Probably need to spend more time on it. We have, and I think for my own sake, like I think I do a good job of like inspiring people, right? Like that's kind of like when I talk to people, or if I find somebody that I really like and kind of get excited about them, get excited about that person. If I get into conversations with them, then typically I can inspire them to want to either transition over, make a move over. But my process has really been, I like to start with what I kind of call speed dating. This has been successful for me. So usually when I'm hiring somebody or hiring somebody higher level, um, whenever that first point of conversation is, I like to have multiple conversations, right? So it's like text, email, phone, like boom, 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 not just like formalized interviews at all, like none of that. It's like conversations, more conversations, more conversations. A, to be really open and transparent. I think that's worked really well in our favor. It's just literally be transparent with these people, tell them, what you want and what you're looking to hope that they can bring to the table, showing them the opportunity, painting them the opportunity, going through core values and mission, and here's what we are as a company, here's what we want to do, and really painting that path for them, right? Like future pacing them, right? Like, hey, here's where you can be, here's where we would like to go, and here's how you can be a part of that, right? Showing them that future potential and growth. And that's worked out well. I mean, it really, really, really has worked out well for us. I've been using a lot of the disc profiles, which I know you used to use as well. And those have been really, really great for us, right? They really kind of show us the weaknesses that some people may have, regardless if they're right or wrong, but they are a good, somewhat of a guiding light, because Jeff, as you very well know, David, when you hire somebody, it really is a guess. I mean, you can speed date them all day long. You can have as many conversations as you want, but when you hire them, it really is a guess, right? You don't know until after you're 3, 4, or 5 months down the road, really what
Everybody's
they're
a
bringing to the
salesperson
table.
in the interview, right? Everybody's a salesperson in the
Yeah,
interview. Yeah.
yeah, well, that's exactly right. So it is hard. I mean, like I said, it took me a very, very, very long time to learn that, man. In the business that I'm in, we got to have really, really great people. I want great people that got good head on their shoulders, that are think positive. I'm not a big negative person or anything like that. That understand, that want to be the experts, want to be very consultative, and because those are the right people for our clients, right? And that requires, I mean, it is kind of like finding a needle in a haystack, right? Because that requires a very specific person for this specific industry, that is smart, intellectual enough, that is ambitious enough, and that likes it enough, that they're going to help us go from here to here, right? So we've had success. We've had a lot of success, and we've had some really, really great people. I've all lost some really, really great people, and that is just hurts more than anything, is when you lose somebody that's been with you for 4, 5, or 6 years. As you guys all know, those are just like, those are the ones that kick you in the gut, right? And so, our model, or our approach now going forward for some time, is really, it's all about doing everything we can to make sure the employees love what they're doing, love where they're working, know there's opportunity there, know that we listen to them, and really try to support them in every way, shape, or form that we can, because we want longevity, specifically with employees, because turnover, it just hurts so bad. So it's just a matter of, can we get the right people on board? Can we get them marching to the right beat? Can we, make sure they're happy and they're excited about what they're doing, and they want to come to work? And then when all that lines up properly, and that's hard to do, then you're going to have an amazing team you're going to have an amazing staff, an amazing team, and that's going to really help grow the company. So.
Great. Well, the final step. So we've talked about assessing your capacity to scale. We talked about business planning and financial scorecards, marketing, sales, leadership, and then the final step is operations. And you obviously have gone through some structure with the EOS program. What would you say are a couple of the 2, 3 things that you did operationally to build the business so that the business model worked, that it wasn't just about Josh and his partner working all the time anymore, that they were
Yeah.
actually able to get out from underneath some of the duties and responsibilities to have these good people that you've hired to take over? Any specific decisions or, risks that you took where you actually invested in people? Because there's always the question, do I invest in the people before I grow, or do I grow and then invest in the people? Like, what were some of those decisions you made?
Well, operationally, I mean, I know years ago, I'll never forget, we said, you know what, we're going all in. We're going all in, right? Let's just spend the money. We're just gonna go all in, right? And we did. So we basically set up 2 offices, both offices fully staffed, tons of salespeople, tons of team. I mean, it was like I walked into the place. I'm like, where am I? This is crazy. And we just did this like all overnight because we're like, we're gonna do it. We're going all after it, right? We're gonna own the major event. You know, we're gonna have our own event. We're gonna do all these different things, right? Problem with that is this: if your sales don't keep up with the hiring that you've done and the outset of now, you know, and payroll and everything else, you're done, right? And so guess what happened? That's exactly what happened. It's like the sales started fantastic, right? We were having sales, everything looked great, you know, but soon as they start dipping down and you have a few bad months and then they start, you know, stacking on each other, you start saying, oh gosh, whatever happened to this dream of literally scaling the heck out of this thing, right? So you put in all these people to scale, but you know, the work did not flow with it. And it was a real problem. I mean, it was horrible. It was like probably the worst year of my life when that all happened. And I learned a lot from it. I learned a ton from it, right? So now I'm really, you know, we're very, very careful about how we scale, when we add people. We want to make sure that the numbers are there that actually justify it. You know, we're not a company that is, you know, has outside investors or anything like that. You know, it's just 1000% bootstrapped by us. We do it all. And we're having success with the model we have now. Now, we've put a lot of things in place. So we have great softwares in place. So stuff like, people use Salesforce, right? So we use HubSpot, you know, obviously, which is kind of the alternative to Salesforce. And that's worked really, really well from a sales marketing perspective. We have all our sales dashboards in there, marketing dashboards in there. We know what's happening pretty much real time from a sales and marketing perspective. From a production perspective, we use like Teamwork PM, which is kind of like an Asana, if you would. So that literally houses all of our projects. All those projects got, you know, little milestones and everything else tied in with it. And then all this whole software infrastructure, it all works with each other. So we use like smart sheets and Panda docs for agreements, and they're all kind of talking to each other. So we are a very, very, very largely built company based off processes. If we didn't have them, this thing would be over real quick. So the processes have kept us, you know, I think once you kind of, you know, years ago, once we passed kind of like your $1 million point, you really got to be focusing on the processes and making sure that that's the only way you're going to keep your margins great, keep your numbers great, keep people happy. So everything is very process oriented in our company, and it has been. So the software is kind of like the little hubs that hold together all these different little functioning and operations and departments and so forth. So with that, you know, our teams, most of them have their own kind of like department heads, if you would. So they're meeting weekly check-ins with employees, holding people accountable, production meetings. So all that stuff that goes on, obviously, as a function as a marketing agency, that's happening. And I think one of the biggest things that I've realized over the last 3-4 years since we've gone away from the office is that, you know, being remote, yeah, it's great. It has its benefits, but it's also really, really, really difficult. You just don't have that sense of community, right? It isn't like you can walk into Jeff's office and say, hey, Jeff, we got a deadline. We got to get this done in 24 hours. Let's go through this really, really quickly, right? You just don't have that. So what happens is when you have large teams like we do, your struggle becomes communication, right? Is everybody really communicating well with each other? How are they communicating with each other, right? And that becomes your thing. It's like making sure the communication structure is there and that it's happening, right? Putting checks and balances in place for that, because when you take away a large office and take the people out of it, and everybody's behind behind their computer screens now, you just don't know, right? You're literally left in the dark. So making sure that those communication structures are in place And I think one of the big checks and balances of that, David and Jeff, are your clients, right? So our clients, they're great. I mean, we have fantastic clients. So we've been with us for many, many, many years. We survey our clients quite often. Kind of like NPS score type stuff, right? We'll send out, general surveys every quarter or so and find out what the pulse is, right? What is the pulse? And if everything feels good, looks good, then we're doing things right. We'll know really quickly if the ship is sinking, right? Clients will immediately start raising their hand, or they'll start calling me or my business partner or somebody else higher in the company to say, this isn't right, right? So that's kind of how we're going now, and it's working. I mean, it is definitely working. It's just kind of like, I think now when you get to this point we're at, and I guess we've been doing it now since 2010, so give or take 14 years at it, you start looking at, you get to points where growth becomes harder, right? You get these numbers are a lot bigger now, right? So it's like the growth part of it gets really, really difficult. So you always have to sit back and say, and I'm doing this right now, it's like, how do we reinvent, or what do we do that is going to, kick somewhat the training wheels off and take this thing to the next level? What is that, right? Is it something AI based, right? So we're incorporating more AI based products into our offerings, right? But what is that, right? If you're not willing to, or are you willing to go out and go hit all the trade shows circuit, right, and spend the money and do all that? That's a big capital investment. But again, these are the conversations. I think once you hit certain steps in revenue, you start asking yourself, right? Like, what is next, right? How do you go from here to here when you're already doing big numbers? So that's kind of where we're at.
You've got like 3 or 4 totally different products that you sell to the
Yeah.
same client base, right? Is it all
Yep.
kind of
Yep.
separated? Everybody does everything, or you have teams that understand the 4 different products. So once you sell it, goes to this team or that team, or does everybody kind of know enough to be able to produce all those products? I mean,
Yeah, we break it up in our buckets, right? So you have our 4 buckets. So like digital is always going to be with the digital team. You've got your visualization and your brand development. That's always going to stick with the account management team. But then behind them, you'll have like your creative department. So yeah, it's broken up in that sense. There's a little bit of overlap in terms of who manages what, but yeah, it is somewhat broken up dependent on who's fulfilling what, right? Literally, who's fulfilling what, and that's kind of how we do it. Does work.
what do you think? I mean, you took this business from a few $100,000 a year in sales to multi-million dollars in sales, and you're trying to like double, right? One more time, maybe double it. Like, what do you think the key to that is over the next couple of years to double revenue, keep your margins
Uh,
up, double net profit? What do you think the key to that's going to be to double? It's a
man,
big one.
I'm literally sitting here thinking about that. I was thinking about that all last night and the night before. It's like, okay, how do we go from, like, what is next, right? So I think the big thing is this industry, it's a little vulnerable because you have a lot of things that are out of your control in the sense of properties, right? People sell properties all day long, right? So properties are changing ownership, they're changing management companies, right? So you're involved in all of it, right? You're literally involved in all of it, because all of a sudden, if you're working with Graystar and they decide that they're gonna, the owner of that building decides he doesn't want to use Graystar and use somebody else, well, your services may be attached to Graystar, but not this other one. So you're at that mercy, unfortunately, right? Nothing you can do about that. So it's all about how do you try to minimize cancellations, or at least account for it, right? So that's a big thing, is like, how are we accounting for this in our future growth? I can grow all day long, but if you have cancellations pulling you back down, it's really, really difficult, right? So for me, it's thinking, saying, okay, well, if I was to, take this business, and if I was to try to double this business, well, where would I start? And I think the first place I would start is looking at all my paid media. So if I'm spending X on paid media, well, what happens if I double, triple, quadruple that expenditure, right? So that's the first place I would look, right? It's like, okay, is it leads? So if I double my leads, will that double my sales? It will increase sales for sure. So that's what I look at. It's like right now, it's like, okay, how can I double my leads? If I can double my leads, I can have more sales, and I can add more, team members as need. So how can I do that? what else can I put out in the industry that is valuable, that has, you know, a good recurring revenue base to it, that clients will like, right? So what other new products can I introduce? So that's why I said like AI-based products, like what kind of stuff can I introduce? That would be great. So for example, right now we're introducing an AI enhanced reputation management product, right? So that's what we're going to roll out. And I think it's fantastic because it's somewhat inexpensive, and it's good for, you know, management companies that don't want to deal with reputation management, right? Which is a lot of them. So we're rolling that product out right now, rolling out another product for Google Business Profile right around the same arena. So what products can we offer that have recurring revenue, that show real value for our clients? And I also think a part of it is going to be refiguring out what else value-based that we can give out to our clientele and the information perspective, right? So yeah, I'm doing the newsletter, but it's like, Jeff, as you know, and David, you have all these other little channels out there. There's channels we're not really taking, like social, we're not really taking advantage of that channel at all. And we should be. So to me, that's a whole nother space that it would involve me hiring a team for that and bringing them in-house and having them literally focus on what we're doing and creating something great about that for social. I think there's a big opportunity there for that. There's a big opportunity for podcasting as well. There's a big opportunity for updating the book. So I think if I was to able to implement all of these things, you know, over the next 12, 24, 36 months, I think we'll see a massive impact. And for me, at the end of the day, if I can see the lead volume double, triple, quadruple, then to me, that's what I want, because those are warm leads coming in. It's just a matter of us taking care of them and doing what we need to do to make sure they come over to us. So.
Right.
Nice.
Well, as we wrap up here, Josh, I just wanted to say thanks for coming on and sharing your insights and expertise and experience with the marketplace opportunities that you've had. As we wrap it up here, you know, we're all about growing profits. And so we talked a lot about a lot of different areas that could lead to increased profits. But if you could focus on just one thing in 2024, that maybe it's not evergreen, maybe it's just like if 2024 was an area that you could speak to a whole diverse group of entrepreneurs, and you were going to encourage them or challenge them to grow profits, what's the one thing that you would tell that entrepreneur that you think would be applicable in nearly every case of an entrepreneur's experience?
Oh, that's easy. Just write the book. That's simple. I mean, hands down, write the book, right? That's the one thing you can do that will literally, it don't matter how old it is, it will always be there. Always. It's the one piece of value that literally paves you as the expert in your industry or space. It really does, right? And it's just same for me. If I go look at another company and whatever, and I see they have a book, regardless if the book's crappy or not, they immediately go way up in my book, right, of who they are. So that's what I would do. I think it's all about delivering value. So if you could do something in 2024 to deliver massive, massive, massive value, it's do the book, right? It has such a high perceived value, right? Such a high perceived value. And plus you can put great insight in it. You can give it away for free. It's amazing lead magnet. I 100% behind that.
Very cool. Well, hey, thanks so much for joining us today for this awesome interview, extraordinary interview with Josh Grillo from Resident360.com. Make sure if you get a chance, go check out his website, Resident360.com. Check out the book that he wrote, and we'd love to get some feedback. If you throw some comments in the comments section of this video, we'd sure love to see your feedback and other questions. And yeah, if you have other questions about Grow My Profit, go to growmyprofit.com. We've got all kinds of different videos and blog posts, and you'll also find some more information about our new book, right, Jeff?
Yeah, we're close. Josh might have pushed a button right there. You know, I've been putting mine off for a little while.
Oh boy. Yeah.
It's time to get it done.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Josh. We're super excited to celebrate your success and wish you the very best in the near future.
Appreciate it, guys. Good talking to you.
Thanks, Josh.
Everybody.
Yep. Cheers. Cheers.